I lied, AA. I told the room I had 30 days. I had 2. I still had a half pint in my jacket pocket, and I kept my hands in my lap so no one would see the shake. After the meeting, I walked to the bus stop. The street lamp by the sign buzzed and flickered a little. It was cold enough that my breath showed. 2 guys from the meeting smoked by the curb. I stayed under the light because it felt safer there. I stared at the dark street. I was thinking about the little bottle in my pocket and whether I would pour it out or not. When the bus came, I looked down to step off the curb. My shadow stretched long from the lamp, sharp on the sidewalk. The bus cast a big block on the street. The sign had a thin knife of a shadow over my shoe. There was a person standing near me. I had seen them in the corner of my eye the whole time. Close. Too close. I looked for their shadow. There wasn't one. The ground under their feet was bright, like the light went through them, and everything else threw lines away from the pole. I blinked and looked up at the person. They were there. Shape of a person. Dark coat, maybe. No face I could pick out. They didn't move or say anything. I got on the bus. I didn't look back. I smelled the open bottle in my pocket like it wanted to jump up my nose. I had this sick feeling like I had just missed a step. At home, I went to the kitchen and put the bottle on the counter without opening it. I put my chip next to it, the cheap little bronze 30-day coin the room chair had given me anyway. "Hold on to it until you earn it," he said, and smiled. I told him I would. I wanted to believe him. The ceiling bulb hummed and twitched while I stood there. It made a high sound that got into my ear. The hum picked up when I walked under it. I tapped the glass. It went out and came back on. I made a sandwich I didn't want. I threw half away. I washed the dish. I went to bed on the couch because I was too tired to climb the ladder to the sleeping loft. That stupid bulb hummed all night, even through the wall. In the morning, the chip wasn't on the counter. I checked the floor. I checked my pockets. I checked the sink drain. I checked under the stove. It was gone. The bottle had moved. It was on the other side of the counter, standing straight and neat, like someone lined it up with the tiles. I told myself I did that in the night. I had that 2-day sober brain that walks around without me sometimes. I told myself the chip fell into the trash with the sandwich crusts. I pulled the bag out and spread coffee grounds and wet bread on the linoleum. Nothing. Nothing. I went to work and tried to keep my head down. I lasted until lunch. I sweated through my shirt. I stared at my hands because they wouldn't stop shaking. On the way back, I cut around the block to avoid that same street lamp. I still smelled that bottle even though it was sealed at home. It felt like it pressed against my ribs from a distance. I hated that I thought like that. I hated that I thought anything like that. That night I stood in the hall outside my apartment and looked at the light. The landlord had put bright LED tubes in the ceiling. They buzzed too, but a lower, steady sound. The light made a hard grid on the carpet from the railing. I fished my key, and I saw it again. Between 2 lines of shadow from the railing, there was room for one more. Like if a person stood there, the lines would break around their legs. They didn't. It was bright between the shadows. Open. Empty and not empty. I stared at that patch like it would answer me. The light hit my face. I felt watched, but not from behind. From that bright spot. I went inside and slid the chain. The chain was old and a little crooked. It hung wrong. I turned on the kitchen light and it snapped and flickered. I said out loud, "Stop that." I didn't know who I was talking to. I ate cold eggs from a takeout box and stood with the fridge open to feel the motor hum in my hand. I pulled my phone out and turned on the flash in the camera. I took a photo of the counter. I wanted to see sharp shadows, see where things fell and maybe find the chip under a lip of wood. The picture made me drop the phone. I picked it up and looked again. The bottle's shadow was on the counter, long and clean. The faucet's shadow made a hook. My hand next to the bottle had a shadow with all the fingers spread. And there, next to me, was a person-shaped space. Not a figure you could draw. It was just no shadow where there should have been one. Like if someone stood there, the light wouldn't make a line off them. Everything around it had dark. That spot didn't. I took more. I turned on my lamps. I dragged the floor lamp into the kitchen. I put the desk lamp on the fridge. I took photos with the flash in every direction. In a few shots, that clean space was behind me, closer to the wall. In one, it was right by the chair. The tiles under it were as bright as if nothing was there. When the flash went off, the room felt cold for a second. Just a second. I told myself I was making it up. I poured the half pint out in the sink. I turned the water on and watched it swirl away and felt angry and small and empty and stupid. I went to the bathroom, closed the door, and turned on both lights. I held my phone at face level and took a flash photo into the mirror. The light blew my eyes out. When the image came up, there I was, unshaven and gray, and behind my shoulder, next to the shower curtain, the shadows from the hook stretched, and the shampoo bottle had a crisp little shadow on the tile, and there was that same shape of nothing. I turned, quick and hard, like a kid. The room was bright. There was nothing there. My eyes watered. I said, "Okay." I didn't know who I was telling. My sponsor called. "You good?" he said. His voice was gentle. He always sounded like he was in the next room. "I lied about my days," I said. "I kinda figured," he said. "You coming tomorrow?" You ever see something under a streetlight that didn't make a shadow? I said before I could stop myself. He was quiet for a beat. "You sleeping?" he said. "Not really," I said. "Eat. Sleep. Call me in the morning," he said. "Don't sit in your thoughts. They get loud at night." I laughed, but it came out wrong. Yeah. That night, I heard footsteps outside my door. Heavy and slow. They didn't try to hide. They came right up and stopped. The peephole showed the hall bright and empty. The light outside hummed hard. My forehead touched the door while I looked. Then the chain went tight. Something on the other side pulled the door hard against it. The wood groaned. The screws in the chain plate squealed. I threw my shoulder against it without thinking. My mouth went dry, and I said, "Go away," in a voice I didn't know. The chain held. The pressure stopped. I stood still and listened for breathing. There was nothing. I opened the door an inch when I thought it was over. I stuck my eye in the crack. The hall looked the same. The light made the same grid on the carpet. There was a bright slot between two lines that stayed bright, and I got dizzy. I closed the door and wedged a chair under the knob like a cartoon. I slept on the floor with my back against the door. Every time I half slept, I saw a shadow that wasn't there. In the morning, the chain plate was bent at an angle. The screws were pulled out on one side. I touched it and it tore the skin off my thumb. I took a picture. The cops came after lunch. A young guy and a woman. They stood in my kitchen. The ceiling bulb hummed over us. The guy popped it with his finger, and it went out for a second and came back on. "Someone pulled your door," the woman said. "You have enemies?" "Not that I know," I said. "I got this." I scrolled to the photos and showed them the flash pictures. There was someone there. In the hall. In the bathroom. "They don't. The shadows. Look." They each took a look and handed the phone back. The guy shrugged. "Glitch. Flash does weird things," he said. He looked at my hands. "You fall often?" he said. "Sometimes," I said. I didn't meet his eyes. "You smell like a bar," he said, but he said it quiet. "Get the chain fixed. Stay somewhere else a couple nights if you can," he said. "We'll do a walkthrough." They did. They touched nothing and left. I drank that night. I told myself it was to sleep. I told myself it was to shut my head up. I bought a pint at the corner and drank half it in the alley walking home. The street lamp on the corner buzzed high and fast, and the light flickered in a way that made my teeth hurt. Under it, my shadow jumped and moved like a puppet, and I could see the place next to me where there should be more shadow and there wasn't. The bright spot kept up with me. I took a step and it took a step. I trotted the last stretch without thinking. When I got inside, I locked the door and put the chair back and sat on the floor and drank the rest with my hand shaking around the bottleneck. I woke up on the bathroom floor. The lights were on. The mirror had a handprint on it that looked like it was made of water and dried there. I thought I had pressed my hand up half asleep. My forearm hurt. I looked at it. 4 round bruises and a thumb mark. Clean circles, a little too far apart for my own hand. The skin was cold under them, colder than the air. I pressed there, and I felt like my bones were made of ice. I didn't drink that day. I wanted to, but I didn't. I made coffee strong enough to make me puke. I set the mug down and went to the closet. I got every lamp I owned. I went to the thrift store and bought 2 more. I took the shades off. I got a strip of bright LED and taped it under the cabinets. I made my kitchen into a stage. I shut the blinds tight. I wanted the light to be mine, not the sun, not the hall. I aimed the lamps at the walls and floor to throw big clean shadows off the chairs and me and everything. I propped my phone up in a glass and set it to the 10-second timer with the flash on. I found my old point and shoot in a shoebox and charged it, and turned the flash to full and set it to take a shot every 30 seconds. I didn't know if it would work. I wanted to see it if it came. I wanted something that would not lie to me. I called my neighbor, the guy across the hall, an older man who took his mail slow. "You notice anyone messing with the doors?" I said when he answered. "Someone stands in the hall sometimes," he said. "I hear them, but I don't see them." He cleared his throat. "You okay? You look thin." "I'm fine," I said. "If you hear me yelling tonight, don't come out." He laughed a little, then stopped. "All right," he said. I called my sponsor. "This is going to sound stupid," I said. "I need you to know I'm not making stuff up." "You need me to know that you're scared," he said. "Yeah," I said. "I'm going to try something with lights. If I don't call in the morning, just check on me." "You're not thinking of hurting yourself," he said. "No," I said. "I like living way more than I should." "Okay," he said. "Plug your phone in. Keep the line open if you want." I hung up. I couldn't say the thing out loud. Saying things made them real, and I already had more real than I wanted. I turned on every light. My kitchen was a box of white. The air felt dry. The lamps buzzed. The LED strip had a high, thin hiss like a mosquito. The floor had a crazy map of black lines from the chair legs and the table and my body. I stood in the middle and took a breath and took a flash photo. The burst hurt my eyes. When I could see, I looked at the phone. The room looked like daylight in there. My shadow was hard on the tile. The chair's shadow cut my shin. And there was that spot, next to the fridge, neat as a person could be neat. Bright where there should have been a rectangle of dark. In the next one, the bright came closer. I took another. Closer again. I couldn't hear the apartment anymore. The hum took over everything. The air felt colder on my right side than my left. My breath steamed even though it was not that cold. I said, "I see you," and I felt stupid when I said it, and I wanted to throw up. I held my arm out, the one with the bruises. The skin there prickled. I took a step toward the spot between the chair shadows. The bright moved with me. It lined itself up in front of me. The hairs on my forearm lifted. I pointed the point and shoot at my own chest and hit the button. The flash went off, and in that white second I saw it. Not like a person, not with a face, but a shape that belonged to a person. It stood in the light, and the floor under it was bright. The wall behind it had a shadow from the lamp cord, but not from it. It had no shadow, and that made it the only thing my brain could hold. It was tall and thin. Its head tilted, just a little. My skin crawled like I had ants under it. It was close enough that I felt a pressure on my throat. Cold fingers. There was no hand to see until the flash went off again. For that white click, I saw long fingers on my neck, no shadow of the hand on my shirt. The squeeze was real though. Hard and clean and not angry, just there. My eyes watered. I tried to suck a breath in and got a little. I swung the desk lamp at it and hit nothing with the lamp, but my elbow went through that cold place and went numb. It didn't step back because it didn't have steps. It just was closer. Something hit my chest. The bruise spots on my arm went white around the edges like they were pushed from the inside. I knew then what to do. It made no sense, and all the sense. I didn't try to fight it. It lived in the light. It needed the light to be seen and to touch me. I turned and took 2 stupid, slow steps out of the kitchen because my legs were jelly and my head was full of buzzing, and I reached to the right where the breaker box was. The cold hand squeezed and something in my throat clicked. My fingers found the main and pulled hard. The apartment went dark like a curtain dropping. The hum stopped. The silence hit me so hard, my ears rang. The hand on my neck went away. Not loosened. Gone. The air around me stopped feeling cold. I fell into the wall and slid down. I waited to feel someone grab me in the dark. Nothing touched me. I took a breath, and it was a big one. I sat there and laughed once because it came out of me all at once and scared me. I didn't turn the lights back on. I stayed there with the breakers off. The neighbor knocked and said my name, and I said, "Don't open your door." I called my sponsor and said, "I'm okay," and I was not okay, but I was breathing. He said he was coming, and I told him not to. I crawled to the couch and pulled a blanket over my head like a kid. I slept like someone who won a fight he didn't deserve to win. In the morning, with the blinds down, my apartment was still dim, but not black. I flipped the breakers back on long enough to make coffee with the machine. The bulbs stayed off. I unscrewed them anyway. I carried the lamps into the closet and turned them to face the wall. My kitchen looked like a stage after a show, scuffed and dead. On my arm, the bruises were clean and dark now, purple oval fingerprints in a row. When I went to take a shower, I didn't turn the light on. I left the door cracked to let in a stripe from the hall, and that was all I could stand. I didn't call the cops again. What was I gonna say? I didn't go to work. I called in sick and then blocked my manager because I didn't want to explain sick without saying drunk. I didn't drink. I ate toast, and it tasted like foam. Every time I looked at the lamp sockets, I felt sick. The thought of a street lamp made my head hurt. I waited for night, and when it came, I went out for the first time. I walked on the side of the street that the trees covered. I gave the bright patches a wide berth. The corner lamp buzzed, and I crossed away from it with my eyes on the ground. A few days later, I had to cross the big street at noon to get to a store. The sun was high. There were no trees. I tried to time it when there were clouds, but there were none. I told myself I was fine. I stepped off the curb. My shadow fell dark and hard on the white paint of the crosswalk. I looked down at it to make sure it was there. It was. My head felt hot. My hands were steady for once. I took another step and saw it. On my forearm where the bruises were, in the sharp noon light, my shadow had a piece missing, a neat bite where the fingers had been. It made me stop dead. The cars honked. I stepped backward into the shade of a sign and gagged, not because I was sick, but because the sound of a street lamp far down the block started to buzz, and my body remembered. I went home the long way and stayed inside. I kept the lights off. I kept the blinds low. When I had to pass bright places, I put my hand over that part of my arm. I didn't know if it made a difference. It felt like the only thing I could do. I hope you enjoyed that one. Sometimes these stories stay with you longer than you expect. If you'd like to hear more, subscribe for the next night's story. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe watch another before the lights go out. See you in the next one.